Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this industry connection. I'm excited for you all to hear all about the wonderful inside guide that you're about to learn about. I'm just going to jump right in because there's a lot of information we're going to cover today. So thank you for joining. I'm going to pass it over to the other David. So David, take it away.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen if that's all right with everybody. All right. All right, everybody. Hi, my name is David Dombrosky. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at a company called InstantEncore. We've been around since 2007, providing different technology solutions to the arts and culture industry. Everything that we do is related to the patron experience, increasing their frequency of participation, and delivering more value from their interactions. So we currently have two services that we offer. Absention is our white label mobile app platform that enables arts and culture organizations to have their own branded mobile apps in the App Store. And then our new service that we launched earlier this year is InsideGuide. And that brings us to the topic of today's webinar. So for the agenda today, we're going to talk about what is InsideGuide, why are organizations shifting from print to digital programs, how are theaters using InsideGuide to transition to digital programs, and what impact does the shift have on advertising revenue and the patron experience? We're going to do Q&A at the end. So if you want to go ahead and submit your questions as we go along, they're going to be monitoring the Q&A for us. And then at the end, we'll do that as a group together. All right, so I'm going to talk a little fast. I'm going to put on my East Coast voice because I got a lot of knowledge to drop and a little bit of time to do it. So InsideGuide in 2020, Mervish Productions, which is a theatrical company that runs 4 theaters in Toronto, they approached us and they said, look, you know, on the other side of this COVID thing, we're going to need digital programs, but we need digital programs that meet actors' equity guidelines. And so we sat down with them and talked about what that means practically. And then we went out and we looked at program books and playbills from all different types of organizations in different disciplines throughout North America. And we started to identify some commonalities between orchestra programs and theater programs and dance programs. And then we were also, while we were looking at those commonalities, we are also taking a look at, are there particular elements that are specific to the discipline? And with that knowledge, we started building. So InsideGuide is the end result of that building process. So InsideGuide, it's a new platform for creating and delivering digital program books. It takes the traditional elements of those programs and places them in a more interactive mobile first environment. So when we were building, we brought together a group of early adopters, 40 early adopters from around North America. And in the fall of 2021 and early winter of 2021, we worked with them as beta testers for InsideGuide while we were developing the content management system side of it, the external side or patron facing side. And we're going to be talking about some of the results. We did a survey of our early adopters at the end of the 21-22 season, and I'll be peppering some of the results of that survey as we go along. So why are organizations shifting from print to digital programs? Well, with Mervish, it was originally about creating a safer environment. They wanted to be able to reduce physical contact points on site and help patrons and volunteers and staff feel more comfortable. And so we saw a lot over the past year. We saw a lot of our organizations, including things like their mask guidelines, their space requirements for folks who are trying to enforce that 6-foot rule, all of those things. We're seeing that happen a lot. Now we're seeing more of the policies being suggested but not required. But that doesn't remove some of the reasons why people are shifting, because some of them transcend just the reaction to COVID. For example, a lot of organizations coming out of the pandemic are trying to find different places to cut their costs, especially as some of those costs like printing and shipping begin to rise. They're looking for ways of how can we still get the content to our patrons and yet reduce the amount of money we're spending on printing and shipping that content. So we asked our early adopters if they had any savings on their print costs. So for 41% of our early adopters, they eliminated all of their program printing costs by going entirely digital. Now that means the other 59% did offer some sort of printed format. And so for those, we asked them about their cost savings. 65% said that they reduced their costs. 20% said they did not, but they plan to in the new season. And 15% said they did not. 15% said they did not. Now, if we look at all of those, the 41% who dropped everything, the 15% of this side who didn't lose and didn't drop any costs at all. If we look at all of them across the spectrum, there was an average savings of 67% on their program printing budgets. Now, while they're trying to cut costs, they also want to generate ad revenue. And going digital gives you some different options that we'll talk about a little later. But 62% of our early adopters included ads from external organizations in their digital programs. And when we asked them how much they charge for those ads, 62% charged the same or more for their digital ads than they would have for their print ads. So there's kind of this almost bias where we automatically think that print should cost more than digital. And I would resist that a little bit. I don't think that's necessarily true, and I think we can see that's playing out here. Another reason people are shifting is they're trying to align their operational practices with their desire to be more environmentally friendly. And so in the process, I usually tell folks some of the best ways of helping people adopt your digital programs is being very clear to them about why you are going in this direction. So identifying your primary drivers. Is it the greener practice? Is it reducing costs and being more fiscally responsible? Is it to provide more options for your advertisers and sponsors? Thinking through that and communicating that clearly definitely helps with adoption. And then, of course, making changes in real time. Everybody's seen how that's played out over the past few years. You know, you've got folks who pop up sick at the last moment. For example, Black Theater Festival of Milwaukee, bless their hearts, they had their festival all set for August, and then come July toward the end, they had like 8 to 10 performers who popped up with COVID, and they had to go in and completely change their roster for some of the plays that were in the festival. So, you know, if they had been, they normally would have gone to print at the beginning of July, and that would have been locked down and impossible. But when they were digital, they could make changes at the very last minute, and it freed them up a lot in that way. And then others just want to provide a more interactive experience that kind of reflects how people are engaging with their technology, their smartphones, their tablet computers in their daily lives. So what are some other benefits of digital program books? You can deliver your programs in advance. So it kind of unlocks the program from being handed in that specific moment of walking in. Now you can deliver programs in advance. You can include links in the know before you go email. You can add a QR code to posters for the player all up around town that go directly to the program. Gives you a lot of different options. And you can also maintain an on-demand archive. And that way people, patrons can go back and look at programs from previous productions over time, and just gives them the ability to access that whenever they need to. Also helps with improved accessibility. So InsideGuide delivers the program through the mobile web browser, and you can use the browser's functionality to increase the font size, and the program will respond accordingly. You can also, InsideGuide works with screen readers, and that way it makes it even more accessible for people with low vision. You can also include multimedia content, and that way you can take patrons behind the scenes and beyond the stage. It doesn't have to be just text interviews anymore. Now you can actually include playlists, you can include videos, interviews, behind the scenes videos, all of that directly in the program itself. You can also upgrade your ad offerings. For example, you can, because you're digital now, you can actually tell people how many people saw their ad. And you can actually tell them how many people clicked on their ad to go to the link. So they can actually change the nature of their ads to have a very clear call to action that's more immediate, more for right now in the moment. Also, you could have them add animation to their ad. And I can tell you from looking at these digital programs, a little bit of movement really draws the eye. And so you can include that as an upcharge. And you can also provide metrics for your ads. So you can connect it with Google Analytics. You can see where people are going. You can see which ads they've seen. You can also look around and see the exit points, which links they're going out to. It just provides much more information. And you can reuse your content across multiple programs. A lot of programs have what I call evergreen content, which means you're going to want that in every program you create. And so we make it very easy to just replicate that as you go along. So how do audiences access the programs? As I mentioned, they go through the web. So you can provide a link that goes to all of your published programs. And that link will take them to a page with 3 tabs: current, upcoming, and past. And so I can actually make programs available far in the future, and they can appear on the upcoming tab. And you can appear on the upcoming tab. It can also go in and look at past programs. So you can also provide a specific link to a particular program. And I think that's great for event-specific communications. I think for more long-term communication strategies, you're probably going to want to use that published programs link. So it's always going to the most current thing. But for like know before you go emails or on-site posters with a QR code to the program, you're definitely going to want to have those point to the specific program. And it's also accessible through desktop. What we do is we just limit it to 600 pixels in the middle of the screen, and it works the same way as it would on mobile, but we just lock it in so it doesn't pixelate any of your images. So I want to take a look at a couple of examples. So I'm going to look at a couple, but not all of them. But you'll have the link to the slide deck, and you'll be able to go to this slide and click on those and open up those programs. So let's go. So this is Grand Rapids Civic Theater, and they are, oh, just to verify, can somebody vocally verify for me that they're able to see this program for the Revolutionists?
Yeah, it's visible.
Yes, we can.
Great, thank you. So this is from Grand Rapids Civic Theater. And one of the things you can see is they like to group all of their content specific to the show into a singular listing or listing called our show. And then as you go into the different elements of the show, you'll be able to see those. Now, we're working on a desktop environment right now, which is why you see these slider bars. On your mobile devices, these slider bars would not be present. People would just be swiping on the screen directly. One of the things I have told Grand Rapids and other folks is always use the headers on your pages to bring in different images from the production. It gives just a more expansive feel to the entire production to do it that way, rather than showing, the same image over and over. It gives you the ability to really tap into some other moments within the show and highlight those. So we've got, our typical kind of welcome letter from the directors here. You can include those signatures if you like. We've also got our show grouping here. And you can see it's all of the things that you normally include in your printed program. They're just breaking them down and including them in a different space. So, they've got their cast listing and all of that. But as you'll see, we also have individual bios for those cast members. So what they're doing here is they're using this kind of horizontal structure that we're used to from using things like Netflix or Amazon. And people can click on a particular person and go to that person's bio. And yeah, you can see how they even put in a little bit about the playwright at the bottom there. So this is more information about the French Revolution and some of the characters. So that goes to like their study guide. Now on sale, you can click there and see their upcoming productions and performances. They've got their production staff with bios as well. They have information about special concession items. They've got our civic theater kind of grouping with some of that more generic information about the organization that's kind of evergreen and is going to be in all of those programs. So they've got information about their accessible programming, their policies. Thank you to their supporters. Call to action of clicking to donate. Then over here, you're able to, structure how they want to present all of their different partners and donors. And we've seen with organizations that they choose a lot of different formats. And then they've got the rest of their season kind of broken down, and people can go directly to those web pages where they can purchase tickets. And then you'll notice up here, they have a click here to meet some of the organizations in our community. Tap on that, and it's basically going to all of those exchange ads with other arts organizations in their area. Now you want to take a quick look at another one. Remember I told you about motion really drawing the eye? One of the things I love about Cinnabar is how they use animation in their program headers to really draw the eye and set the tone for the idea that this is a digital program and not just a printed one. You can see that mask policy there. They have all their underwriters under a single page here. And then we've got runtime, we've got some content warnings, that's all great. We've got meet the cast, meet the director, the creative team. So that's a meet the director's bio there. And if we went to the creative team, they would have a listing of that there. Here we've got meet the writers, we've got their staff directory, then we've got their season, but also their cabaret season, because they do both a theatrical production main stage and they do cabaret series. Again, call to action, become a member, become a friend, make a difference. Thank you to our donors. And then again, of course, those donors are listed in their own particular format here. Then we've got a link to the merch. They're able to highlight specific lobby artists and link that directly to some of the images from the gallery there. They've got their merch shop. on their website that you can link to. They have a save the date with a little bit of animation in the background to draw the eye. And now they've got some ads from sponsors, key sponsors and advertisers. All right, so I'm going to jump back in. Those are just two examples. But as I said, we've got more examples that are in these links here. So when you download the slides, you'll be able to link directly and click those and go directly to them. So in terms of how easy is it to manage? So it's a user-friendly control panel. Like I said, we had beta testers, early adopters from around the country and Canada who are providing feedback in that development of that control panel. So it's designed to be super clean and easy. You can create programs at the production level and then add or override content on specific performances. You can enable or disable content as necessary. You can replicate content across multiple programs throughout the season. You can also change your content up until the last minute. So it makes it really easy to manage the program. In terms of some challenges for program books, changing audience expectations is one of them. Of course, they're familiar with the kind of concept that when I go to the theater, I walk in the door, I give them my ticket, they scan it, I go up to the usher at my section, and they hand me a program. So that's kind of the expectation. And there's a certain, for some folks, there's a certain fondness for just holding printed things in their hands. But part of it is thinking about the life cycle of that. You know, are they being recycled? Are people actually taking them home? Are they just leaving them on the floor? And that means you've got to have volunteers, you've got to pick those up and wrangle those back in. And you've got pallets of programs afterwards, you've got to recycle. So, I mean, there's just a lot to that. But reducing potential distractions is something you can do in the actual design of your digital program book. You can use dark backgrounds, you can use off-white or gray text and lettering to really reduce the ambient light produced by a digital program. So a lot of those distractions, they can be handled in your initial design. Now, providing a souvenir is also a big challenge because, you know, for a lot of community theaters, you know, they are drawing in actors from the region around them. So whether it's children in the community or if it's, you know, adult actors in the community, and they want to have that remembrance. The question is, does that remembrance really have to be a fully fleshed out program magazine? Maybe not. So 59% of our early adopters did provide a print option in addition to their digital programs, but they provided different types. So whilst, you know, 40% did do a standard printed program, you can see among the others that there were different varieties of them. So like, for example, you'll see there was 30% were doing double-sided rack cards. Here's an example of a rack card from Grand Rapids Civic Theater. On one side, they're providing like that most essential information about the show. And you see at the bottom, they're highlighting season support. They're also highlighting the full digital playbill that someone can scan and get the rest of the information. On the back side, they've got their cast list, their production staff list, and an ad for the next program. And so this remains like a simple souvenir remembrance for the show and provides the information that the people who are saving it really want to know. Another challenge is promoting it because we've all been so used to that moment of handing off that now you've got to promote your program. So you've got to include it in your know before you go emails. You have to provide a link to it, you know, or you can have signage on site like this that actually promotes it and gives people the ability to scan that QR code right on site. Now, if you're in your own building, you can have a much larger version of a banner like this that points to all of your published programs. And that way, whenever anybody, you know, scans that QR code, it's going to pull up most current information. And then just learning to maximize the benefits, how to leverage the digital nature of the program to do things that you couldn't do in print. So 94% of our early adopters included content in their digital programs that they couldn't include in print. And so those are things like including Spotify playlists, expanded bios, videos, animation, ads with links, or just web links in general to a variety of different types of content. And it really allows them to expand the footprint of that digital program. So in terms of cost for InsideGuide, so there are a couple of ways of going at it. If you only do a couple of productions, maybe like the 3 productions a year, then a la carte may be the way to go. A la carte is charged on a per production basis, or if you're doing a one night only event, it would be charged for that. And so there's a limitation on that. You can do up to 4 individual events or up to 3 productions in a 12-month period. The other option is to go with the subscription. It's unlimited access. You can use it with any number of events or productions. And subscriptions, if you go monthly, you have an initial 12-month commitment, and monthly subscriptions are auto billed to a credit card or debit card. If you go annually, then that's charged once. You can pay by check, by bank transfer, or by credit card online. So there are different options here for that. Now, AACT members do have a member benefit. You can take 30% off your first year's annual or monthly fees. And so that's a long-standing benefit now. We just established that earlier this year. All right, now we're at Q&A. I felt like my New Yorker going on there. All right, so do we have any questions that have come in?
Yes, we have a few. Adrian was asking if you were able to make revisions and updates to the program once it's been published.
Oh, absolutely, because a couple of things. One, you can get a link that goes to the specific program, and that link you can send to people prior to publication. So while it's still in draft mode, you can actually provide a link to that program. So if you have people who have to do approvals of bios of different elements of the program, you can use that link to send it to them. Now, the other thing is when the program is published, you can still change it on the fly. We have people do that all the time. For example, some folks will have like an announcement content block that they leave invisible. And then on days when things happen where there are shifts in terms of players needing to fill in for somebody else, all of that, they make their announcements block visible and just put in the specific information. So in that way, I like to call it no inserts ever, in a very mommy dearest kind of way.
Someone else asked if the cast or crew can be searchable. For example, can you click on an actor in the current show to see what other projects they've been involved in?
Not at present, although you could add on that actor's bio page, you could add a list of their previous productions, and you can reuse that page from production to production and build that page over time. So you can, when you go in to create a page for your program, it'll give you the ability to pull in a page from another program. And so I can grab that bio page, pull it in, and then just add this new particular production to that list on their bio page. So there's like another way of going at it.
And finally, the last question is, someone's asking if the light from audience checking the program during the show is distracting, or does it cause lack of concentration for the audience?
We haven't had a lot of reports of that. There have been a couple, and we actually worked with them because the ones that we were getting the response from were folks who had a white background for their production for whatever reason, and if it just matches with the branding that's consistent with their website or whatever. But one of the things that we talked and worked with them about is how can we reduce the ambient light by changing some of the design elements. And those small changes can go a long way to reducing the amount of ambient light in the hall. Other people, what they do is they actually spell out the behavior they want to see from their audience. For example, some include an announcement right out the top asking them to silence their devices. Others ask them to, some actually ask them not to look at the program during the show. So, I mean, it just depends on what behavior you want the audience to emulate and communicate that expectation to them.
Excellent. Does anyone else have any questions? Those are the ones that have been submitted. I want to make sure we give an opportunity to make sure we get all the questions answered.
Sure. A lot of people ask me, how long does it take to create a program? And I always tell them the first one is going to take the most time, because what people do is they create their first one as a template that they will then copy for the next one, and then just change the production specific elements. And so they're continually doing that process of copying the most recent one and then swapping out content or adding and adjusting content to the most recent one. And so, you know, I've had folks who published a program same day. I've had folks who it took them, you know, 4 or 5 days to get everything the way they wanted while they're juggling all their other work. So a lot of it just depends on your bandwidth for your human resources and how quickly you can add that content in.
Excellent. Well, we are at the half-hour mark, so I hope we answered everyone's questions. I want to thank you so much on behalf of AACT. I want to thank you so much, David, for coming and sharing all this information. We all know that over the past few years, all arts organizations have had to make changes and really examine the way we do things. So this has been incredibly helpful. I hope the attendees agree. And I also, for the attendees who are still here, I want to just drop a plug for some upcoming webinars, including an exciting one that's happening this Friday with the Theater Marketing Lab's Julie Nemitz. It's a free marketing webinar that looks at the 4 big changes affecting online marketing and ticket sales. Included in that webinar is going to be a launch of a new program that AACT is partnering with Theater Marketing Lab for. It's an exciting new program that's going to help every theater. So you don't want to miss that. Information on our website at aact.org/webinars. And on Tuesday, we have a free roundtable discussion on board development and training. Again, aact.org/webinars. And finally, I want to remind you that registration is open for ACT Fest next June in Louisville. It's going to be an amazing time. We have ACT Fest, Youth Fest, the Community Theater Management Conference, Adjudication Seminar, all the things happening at once. Plus, you get to hang out with all your friends in person. So aact.org/ActFest. I think that's all I'm going to drop for you today. Thank you all so much for joining, and we hope to see you at a future webinar soon.